I was very lucky to come from a claims background in my 20 plus years in insurance. So I was able to see what happens at the end of the journey when they have a bad fire, they have a flood, and the impact it has on their businesses, on their lives. And some people never recover from that.
Hello and welcome to 11FS FinTech Insider Spotlight. I'm Benjamin Ensor from 11FS. In this show, we shine a spotlight on the best and brightest in the tech and financial services industries to get to know them, their businesses, and what they think the future of the industry will look like. On today's Spotlight, I'm delighted to be joined by Chris Barclay, Chief Executive at Superscript, a digital insurance broker aiming to make insurance quicker, easier, faster for businesses of all sizes. How are you doing today, Chris?
I'm great, and thank you very much for having me this morning.
Welcome for joining us in the studio. So one of the things we want to focus on is small business. And I think it's fair to say that being a small business owner is a tough gig. Your own research found that 41% of UK business owners don't have emergency funds and would struggle if they went without work for 6 months or more. Maybe in Superscript, they've got an ally. So let's find out. We'd love if you could start with an overview of what is Superscript, what does a digital insurance broker do, how does the business work, what makes you different from the other insurance options that are out there?
As a starting point, I think it's important to say that our small businesses are the cornerstone of the UK. They're critically important to entrepreneurial growth. They play a really important part driving the economy, and they don't get the support and love at times that they need. So our role as a digital insurance broker is more than a transactional relationship. We form ourselves in being a trusted advisor, and we do that using tech as an enablement. So in a world where consumers are purchasing through applications and online and using mediums that continue to develop every day, insurance is a 300-year-old product that has remained quite static. And we've tried to form a business which brings the best of technology, technical excellence in terms of understanding and knowledge, but also people. And that's what makes us quite different. We were formed almost 10 years ago from two co-founders, and Ben and Cam, and they saw an opportunity to disrupt the insurance space through that world of insurtech. It was formerly called Digital Risks, a business that they started from their bedroom and quite quickly started to get an industry excited about what they could be. They started in PI and cyber, a space that no doubt we'll talk about a little bit more today. But quite quickly saw that it goes beyond day-two products, and actually customers, SMEs, lack the education and support they need to buy the products to protect their risk. And Superscript was formed. Now, some 10 years later, we've came through the kind of baby years and the infancy of a business, and we're now ready to kind of supercharge it and take it forward. So I think what I would say is we're maturing, and we saw the rights and wrongs of building a small business, and that gives us a strong platform to be able to educate others that are doing the same, but also we're ready to take on the market and provide the level of experience and support that our customers need to thrive in their small business world.
Insurance isn't always something that small business owners sort of immediately think of as something that they need when they're setting up a business. Sometimes people in general, not just small business owners, can sort of see insurance as a sort of mandatory thing, a thing you have to have by law, rather than necessarily something that you need.
Yeah.
Why is having the right kind of business insurance so important for small businesses?
I think it's often not realised until it goes wrong. So these are people's livelihoods. This could be an entrepreneur that looks after their family. They could look after a number of employees in terms of that responsibility to look after their livelihoods and so on. And when it goes wrong, the impact on that can have is quite catastrophic. I was very lucky to come from a claims background in my 20 plus years in insurance. So I was able to see what happens at the end of the journey when they have a bad fire, they have a flood, and the impact it has on their businesses, on their lives. And some people never recover from that. As insurance it's believed that there's still up to 2 million in businesses across the UK that are either underinsured or not insured at all. And it's probably because of that necessary evil. It's managing cash flow. It's making they can actually afford the premium. But it's actually more about understanding. They've never been in a situation where it's been required, and they've been very lucky and fortunate. And our responsibility, I use that word education a lot, is to make them see what happens when it goes wrong, and to have that trusted advisor available to them to support that, so their business can go back to the way it was and thrive, rather than stop or even maybe shut down in some extreme circumstances.
So I suppose if your business hasn't been hit by a fire or a flood or a cyber attack, or you haven't had your sort of van stolen, that's fundamental to everything you deliver, perhaps you don't appreciate it. How do you go about that sort of education? How do you help people start thinking about what kind of cover they need and what kind of risks they're exposed to?
I think that comes back to the kind of maturity and the education of Superscript as a business. We once built something shiny, and it was new and it was fresh and it was easy to use and easy to navigate, and we assumed automatically that then customers would come and purchase from it. But actually, looking at the kind of 5.6 million SMEs that there is in the UK, and we can assume there's 1 million deaths and 1 million entrants, it means that middle core have bought insurance before. So they have a relationship with a broker. They've built it through a price comparison site, which is a developing distribution. And they've had that confidence that they've got someone at the end of the phone where they can call on if they need support, to tell them what cover they need, what risks look like, and maybe kind of fill some of the gaps that they have around what protections are required to be in place. We've learned that actually bringing technology and people together to do that allows them to purchase, access information, education, and we can be more than a provider in a transactional relationship, but utilising technology. So again, SME owners are busy. We're busy. So how do we provide the resources? How do we provide the insight? How do we provide the knowledge? How can we allow them to interact with other businesses like them, so that they can learn from the community and that understanding, rather than just being someone that's selling them a product. And our whole experience is created on that basis. So one thing I'm really proud about is our kind of NPS scoring and our Trustpilot. So SMEs have given us a 4.6 out of 5, and we're plus 73, which is world class. And that gives me the confidence that we're educating, we're supporting customers, and we're helping them on that purchasing journey. But they don't think of us as just an insurance product. They think about us as that emergency call they have to make when they need that support, that advice, or unfortunately when something goes wrong.
It's great having those strong sort of Trustpilot scores, because it does obviously give other customers, prospective customers, the reassurance. One of the things that's more complicated for small businesses buying insurance is actually just knowing what kind of policies you need, what risks you're exposed to, particularly if you're setting up for the first time, but even if you're not. Because, if you and I were to go out and get car insurance, okay, we have different vehicles and probably drive differently and so on, but fundamentally it's kind of the same policy, and the same kind of thing with our home insurance policy. But policies for businesses are much more complex. And of course, some of those businesses, particularly the fast growing ones, they're changing all the time. They're taking on employees, they're taking on new lines of business. How do you help businesses sort of get the right insurance in place? Because it's one thing buying insurance, it's quite another to make sure you've actually covered the risks you're exposed to.
Yeah, I think it's about also highlighting the tangible and intangible benefits of having that risk protection in play. For me, it depends on the business, it depends on the size of the business, it depends on the industry they're in. So at Superscript, we don't want to be a generalist, and we don't want to just provide that product, as mentioned before. We truly invest ourselves in the community of the customers that we're trying to service. So whether you're a contractor, whether you're a med tech or health tech firm, whether you're a startup, insurtech, whether that you are a landlord, our responsibility is ensuring that we know their businesses and we know their communities better than they do themselves. So by embedding yourself in their world and understanding their language and removing jargon and speaking to them in a really straightforward format, creating webinars and opportunities to be able to educate them and take them through us, it makes us feel like we're more than just a service. And the best examples I can give on that is around that kind of tech space. That's where we formed. That's where we saw an opportunity. And it's where we really, really thrive. So Superscript as an identity is often seen as that online, micro, small SME provider that you purchase through an online journey. But actually the biggest part of our business is the face-to-face large businesses that once were a kind of 1-2-man band and now have grown into a 50, 100 strong team and are thriving, not both here in the UK, but also internationally as well. So to confirm that, we really like to embed ourselves in their organisations and organisations like them. We like to share insights. We like to do user research. We like to talk to them in the language that they understand. But then we also want to create an experience that they want to purchase from, obstacle-free, jargon-free, people available when they need them. And that's quite a lot of things to be able to kind of drive into a model and for us to kind of make commercially viable as well. But the 10 years learning, that education, that insight has brought us to where we are today, which is ready to be the number one SME insurance distribution provider in the UK and beyond.
Sounds like you've made a deliberate decision to sort of specialise in certain sectors, get to know those sectors better, starting with the tech sector, if I understood that correctly.
Yes,
absolutely. Kind of started in tech and now gradually you're getting to know other sectors better and expanding and expanding.
Absolutely that. And we've had to diversify the approach that we take as well. As an early startup business, you spend a lot in marketing and you try and drive brand awareness and you try and bring a confidence in a brand that's relatively unknown in a quite age-old space. So large insurance brokers around the world have been here for a very long time, and that brings confidence, it brings traction, it brings expectation. But as Superscript is an emerging brand, we need to work a little bit harder. So why us? So we have tried to look at the approach that we take to bring that confidence and have an ethos and a mantra around that everyone at Superscript's a marketer. So it's our responsibility to represent the brand in the best way. So we do that through partnerships. We do that through direct. So we partner with some of the kind of biggest brands around the world, not only so that it provides us an ability to access their customers, but provide confidence that they're partnering with the people that know it best. So we've been lucky to just recently do deals with TSB Bank, Checkatrade, CFO Startup, Entrepreneurs Collective. So a right wide varied of companies, but all need the same support, but we access them in different ways. So because of that approach, we can access their customer, their audience, we can talk to them, we can be at their events, we can embed ourselves in their worlds. So they get to know Superscript through the relationship and the trust they've already got in their in the original kind of starting point, which is the bank or one of these collectives. So we see that as a massive opportunity for us to grow, not only to this point, but going forward.
You made a really interesting point earlier about saying how you wanted to become a sort of trusted advisor for your customers. And yet at the same time, you're also trying to use digital to sort of make the processes cheaper, quicker, faster, etc. How do you combine that digital process efficiency with the kind of human element to providing advice and guidance and so on? How do you get that balance?
My answer can be somewhat controversial. We've came through that buzzword of insurtech and what it represented, and insurtech's changed the landscape in terms of how customers access products and how we create the opportunity to present risk to carriers in a better way than we've ever done before. But the reality is insurtech is only one part of that experience. The human element is actually the mind. It's the knowledge, it's the understanding. It's coming back to that 300 years old kind of industry that even though the product depth's changed or how we purchase it changed, insurance is quite static in terms of what it is. And I think you mentioned earlier that non-sexy item that people think they need to buy in order to keep the lights on in their business on a daily basis. So how we do that is we build tools and utilize that knowledge to train them through machine learning models and a range of other ways in order to be able to talk to the customer in the way that they want to be spoken to. So my responsibility as the leader of this business and is not to dictate to a customer how they purchase insurance or how we educate them. It's by asking them how they want to be educated to and how they want to purchase from us. So if you're a micro SME and you're used to buying through your digital apps, you book taxis and you you buy items or clothing through shops or whatever it might be, they're familiar with that process and they feel comfortable with it. But we assume that they know what they're buying. So by giving them helps and tips and steps on through that online journey, using that artificial intelligence, using that machine learning, using that knowledge we've brought from people that have been in the industry for a long time, we can say people like you purchase this. Or we have a co-pilot in which you can speak to us through a web chat or online, or even better, they can talk to us over the phone. If you're a bigger customer that actually needs that support and needs that face-to-face relationship, or you've been used to dealing with a broker in a traditional way, again, we have that home for you as well. But it's by bringing the best of our people alongside the best of our tech and taking the learnings from the conversations and investing them into our digital world so that we can create more efficiencies and more opportunity to educate customers through the online channel that has the efficiency, but bringing them into the Superscript ecosystem and giving them the confidence to still have a human element at the back end of it.
So one of the things that I'm really interested in is how are you using sort of digital technology to make policies more relevant to businesses? I mean, particularly when we're talking about businesses in the tech industry, scale-ups, startups, their needs are sort of changing and evolving throughout the year. But, in the past, the insurance industry was kind of selling annual policies. How are you using digital to sort of serve customers more effectively?
So it's important that we understand the persona and type of customer they are, but also the direction of travel with their business. That's more difficult if you're a startup that's maybe not got any income or cash flow yet. But what we're really good at is understanding businesses that grow and look at the challenges that they face in the long run. So where we have annualized policies and they're absolutely important, the world of insurance has naturally had packaged products which bundles everything together, but we've actually stripped it back so that we can offer cover and services for customers when they need them. So we can support them with their growth. They can add on new coverages throughout that year. They can grow the portfolio as they grow as a business. So the packaged product that's generally available through the market today, as I said, we absolutely have that. But whether you want liability cover only, where you want professional indemnity, where you want cyber, where you want general kind of property and kind of contents, we offer all these services and we build a tailorized, personalized product that suits their demands and needs rather than sell them a product that suits us. So it comes back to that identity. We are here to serve them and help them grow and thrive as an organization, and we put the risk protection around them as they build and grow as a business. But we use the digital technology to do that. So we identify who they are, what they need, what they might need in the future, and we make recommendations based on that. But depending on the kind of type of service, whether it's online or where it's offline, that can change and shift over time. And it's our responsibility to use the tools that we've got to be proactive in that approach to say, people like you, or because of this change in your business, or because this has happened, you need more. But at the same time, if their business unfortunately has went in the wrong direction, you might need less. And it's our responsibility to keep that updated also.
Are those partnerships sort of helping you reach more people and sort of get the word out about Superscript?
Absolutely. We had to make a decision as a business, and if I'm vulnerable, if I may, where we did raises and we raised capital and to kind of help us support and drive as a business. And we spent a lot of money on digital marketing, and that approach was expensive, but it also wasn't giving us the access to the customers that we need. By pivoting, I was in the role as Chief Commercial Officer for kind of near 18 months. We switched off that channel almost straight away for a number of reasons. One, it was very expensive, but two, for all the reasons why we are here today, we weren't getting that relationship build with the customer because it was purely transactional based on a search they've done on Google or whatever it is. So pivoting to partnerships where I've had number of years of experience, both in the UK and beyond, allowed us to really embed ourselves in their organisations and build that trust alongside a brand that was already trusted. And in that time, for 2024 to now, the business actually grew by 50%, which was quite a significant milestone and one that I'm really proud of.
You've hit some other big milestones recently, haven't you? Because you've got B Corp status, you've got Lloyd's accreditation, you've won some awards from Insurance Times, and then, of course, you yourself have stepped up into the chief executive role. Congratulations.
Thanks.
How much change has that made to the business? I mean, has that sort of changed all those things? Are they all part of sort of one big process?
I think that to break it into to a couple of different parts, culturally as an organisation, we were young, we were entrepreneurial, we wanted to disrupt and do things differently. And some of the challenges we maybe faced in the early years was because of the approach that we took, that we wanted to disrupt. What I've tried to bring in my role is a little bit more maturity. Mm-hmm. So at 41, I've done nearly 22 years in insurance and worked with the large brokers, worked in claims, and had the exposure to customers, both at a kind of small SME level right up to a large corporate. And it's gave me the insight and the confidence in which I discussed earlier that tech and a shiny journey isn't going to give the customer the confidence that we are the partner of choice. So bringing it back to insurance and respecting it what it is, utilising the tech that we've built and formed and we're really proud of, investing in talent that has experience and is very diverse in terms of not naturally insurance experience, but an industry experience. Electricians, contractors, tech specialists, software engineers. We can train the insurance aspect of that, but their passion for their industry and their community is something that's absolutely there. So when you bring both of them together and bring it into a business that has to grow from a young entrepreneurial disruptive business to a mature digital insurance broker, is quite a significant change to the position we're at today, which is a really strong business that won Insurance Times Schemes of the Year, won Growth Broker of the Year at National Insurance Awards. Really proud of our B Corp status. We'd also done ISO this year as well, which was another massive moment for us. But what that's doing is instilling confidence in our customers and our carriers and our partners that actually we are a mature business. We respect the industry that we're in, that we want to make sure that we've created a platform for success for our people to thrive. But also we represent their brands really, really well. So when we get access to their customers, that they're at the heart of everything that we do, and that maturity curve brings us to that moment we're at today, which is ready to now go again, to grow up that little bit further to an ambitious plan of 100,000 within the next 2 years.
Fantastic. Yeah, because you absolutely need to be an attractive partner to all the sort of platforms and partners you're working with. Otherwise, they'll look for someone else. One of the many things you've done is you've commissioned a sort of report on how startups and scale-ups navigate risk, sort of coming back to that sort of question about customers and risk and how they manage it. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of why you did that? And you talked about passionately about sort of education and so on. What was the sort of intention behind researching how sort of businesses go about buying insurance and their needs and so on?
So this report is something I'm extremely proud about, but the approach again was twofold. So Superscript as a brand, again, if I asked someone that knew us, they would tell us we trust them, they act with integrity, they do the job they say they're going to, they help me at my time of need. But that's for people that know us. For people that don't know us, I think there's still a little bit of education in terms of who are we, what do we represent, what's the type of customers we look after, where's our expertise, why should people place business in us. And the second part of that is we have a responsibility to know our customers. So if we believe that we have an opportunity to thrive and grow and to win customers and keep them and work with them as they grow their businesses, then we embed ourselves in their world. So it was a maturity piece as much as anything. We went through a grow-up stage as a business, 10 years in, spent a lot of money, made a lot of decisions, some right, some wrong, but we stand here as a business that's ready to go again and thrive in the future. And some of that experience, both from our own insights and the 500 kind of plus use cases that we've done, allows us to represent that back to the market and the industries we want to represent. So it's designed to be able to help businesses thrive, be that point of reference and contact they can call on that has call to actions and has necessary insights for companies like them and the challenges they face and the risk protection that we believe that they need to be able to thrive, but also to our partners, our carriers, that actually we're well educated, we're well experienced, we know these industry points, and we're more than that product transaction that some people see insurance to be. We are a trusted advisor that can help them support and grow.
From what you were saying earlier, it sounds as though you were doing a lot of this kind of research anyway, really listening to and talking to your customers. And all you've really done here is just decided to sort of publish some of what you were doing and maybe be a bit more systematic. But it sounds like you were doing a lot of this kind of customer research anyway, you were already talking to customers a lot.
Absolutely. But again, I think it comes down to the identity of us as a brand. We had confidence that we knew what their customers wanted, but I don't think that we'd instilled confidence in the customer that they knew what we wanted. So I keep on coming back to that maturity and that growing up point around we need to be really confident in the part that we play in helping their businesses thrive and grow, and by sharing the vulnerabilities and the insecurities and the rights and wrongs, but also leaning into our ecosystem and sharing information from other people like them and carriers and insurers and the emerging risks and the things that they need to maybe not think about and look around the corner and the things that as they grow they might not be ready for, I think becomes really quite powerful. So we can be proactive as a trusted advisor rather than reactive. And even if that reader only takes one snippet of information from that detailed report, that becomes value add and allows us to build on that relationship with them.
So what were some of the sort of big things or the surprising things that you and your team sort of came across as you did that research, as you sort of pulled it all together? What were some of the things that really sort of struck you about startups or scale-ups or things that people were keeping people awake at night? Yep. What were some of the sort of big things that struck you as either, wow, I didn't know that, or wow, that really clarifies just how important this is?
I think the natural kind of outcome that was driven was just about the uneducated in the insurance space. It says some purchase of insurance is because their contractors require it in terms of liability cover and things like that, whether they're protecting people or protecting employees or whatever that might be. And I think just the obvious things struck me as how uneducated people were and what protections they need. But going beyond that, the thing that probably pulled on my heartstrings a little bit more is the emotional impact on businesses as they grow, the challenges they face. The role of CEO, regardless if you've got your own one-person company or you've got a 100-person company, it's quite lonely. And burnout's a massive kind of risk for these people as well. They don't know where to turn. Cash is king, and if they don't have a lot of it, they need to spend it on the things that are going to make the biggest difference. So bringing it back to the human element, the customer element, just about how lonely they are, how challenging it is. The world is changing round about them. The media it can say a lot of good and bad things around SMEs and what it means, our environment, the economy. I think that just coming back to the human element, around giving them support, giving them a guide, giving them a point of contact, really resonating with them about some of the challenges I face as a leader in this business and what they're going through and how we can potentially help them, support them through it, was probably the biggest emotional thing that I took away from this exercise.
What about some of the risks? Because if you're running a small business, it's probably very hard to assess what risks you're facing. I mean, okay, if you're in a river valley, you might think, hey, flood might be a risk for me. But beyond that, it's quite hard to know what risks you're exposed to. We've seen some huge businesses in the UK getting hit by cyber attacks just in the past few months. What are some of the examples of the sort of maybe the risks that businesses are exposed to that maybe they're not as aware of? What are some of the sort of things you're really passionate about educating small businesses about?
I think cyber's a great example. So we know of the kind of two big cases in the UK just now. I think Marks and Spencer's in particular, the online service is still down. So weeks on, they're still being impacted.
Devastating.
Yeah, definitely. But I think small SMEs don't think that applies to them. So cyber in general is still one of the kind of most least purchased insurances.
Probably least understood as well.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. And again, it comes back to that education piece. So I believe in sharing real life stories, how it's impacted, again, businesses like them. So we take the big Marks and Spencer's example and everyone thinks big business, it doesn't apply to me. But anyone that's got an online journey, anyone that's got a shop, anyone that holds customer data, that applies to. So cyber is one of the big risks. It's evolving, it's emerging. The people that do the attacks and threats, their own technology is becoming stronger and it's becoming more advanced, and we need to stay in front of that. So we partner with carriers who are absolute specialists in that space, that they've got proactive measures in place to monitor traffic and monitor events before they happen. And we instill that in our product as a matter of course. So we don't want to wait to the event to happen to then put a plan in play to make sure it doesn't happen again. We want to prevent it by putting the steps in play so that it doesn't happen in the first place. And by taking their real life stories and working with the customers and educating them and bringing them into what can happen to them if that protection isn't in place, has proved really, really powerful.
That's so interesting, because I was going to ask you about that, because insurance really, as you say, should be about prevention, not compensation. I mean,
yes,
obviously there are certain events that can't be prevented, but there are some that can. And cyber is a great example of a type of risk that can be mitigated, can't always be prevented, but can be mitigated. So is that part of the future of Superscript, to become more and more about sort of prevention and management of risk, not just compensation in the event that something goes wrong, but really trying to help businesses and business owners understand the risks they're exposed to and how they can potentially mitigate some of those risks?
Yes, absolutely. We have that responsibility again to our customers to educate them on what that might look like. But we need to continue to invest in the tools and the kind of, whether they're our own or whether someone else's, suppliers that can help us do that. So how do we make sure that we use the technology of today to put it in the hands of the customer and educate them so that they know of the risks that are happening around about them? So we, in an old world, we would go out and do risk surveys. We'd go out with the customer, we'd walk around their business, we'd highlight things, trips, potential falls, we'd show where there's no signage, we'd show that what could be exposed from both an employee or a customer perspective.
Sort of health and safety audit.
Absolutely. But even beyond that, from risk, again, what are the exposures that again are not obvious to the eye, and we can help educate them. And where customers absolutely bought into that, until it really happens, how bought in are they? So when we spoke earlier on about transactional relationships and embedding ourselves in communities, that's why I think it goes beyond the purchase of insurance and what happens actually in the life cycle of that policy. So over the course of the year, we've got different seasons, we've got different weather, we've got different events, depending on the type of industry. They might be doing their own raises, they might be in the press. Again, media, legal, people growth, HR, general risk in terms of their premises. These are all things that as they grow, as they build, that they maybe haven't assumed can come with some risk and with additional responsibility. And it's our purpose and our responsibility to make sure that we educate them through that time. So the purchase is one part of the experience. The life cycle in which we work with them is another. And then the renewal of that policy is equally as important. And I think that it's as important that we grow with the business and help support them and educate them and bring them up to speed on the things that they need before they know them, so that the renewal process doesn't become a transaction. And then, as taking it even further, claims when they happen, how do you make that a learning experience as well? So I've found that in a claim scenario, often the claimant isn't looking for the thing that you necessarily think they are. So I'll give you an example. If they have a fire at their premises, you automatically think that the building, the factory, their contents, their stock, but actually there might be an emotional thing that they're connected that just allows them to operate or have peace of mind, or allows them to kind of centre on the kind of getting their business back to where they were. So a bit like our purchasing journey, ask them the thing that makes the biggest difference to them. By building that trust, by building that relationship, by potentially solving that early problem, no matter what happens in the rest of the experience, you have that connectivity, and it allows you to educate them and grow through that process, no matter how difficult that claim experience might be.
You were talking earlier about partnerships, and it's sort of fairly clear how the partnerships are of use to Superscript in not only getting your name out there, but helping you get in front of relevant customers and so on. But as you're talking about the sort of experience of being a customer and all the things you're trying to do to sort of help businesses sort of mitigate risk, prevent problems and so on, to what extent can your partners help there? For example, I mean, if you're partnering with, I don't know, accounting platforms or some of the e-commerce platforms that many digital businesses are using, for example, are there ways that you can use those partnerships to sort of drive that education, to monitor risk and so on? Can you talk a little bit about how the partnerships go beyond just helping you sell policies in the first place?
Absolutely. Some of the examples you gave around accountancy platforms is a really good place to start. So with data and the access to the data we've got, and with our system and our technology and the machine learning processes we have in play, we are always identifying personas and driving growth from that persona. So we have also, with our clients, got a number of different steps in play, which is if they're in the media or they've done a raise or they've been acquired or whatever it might be, allows us to be proactive in our communication and tailor our discussions with them. So the accountancy platform you gave is if they've made a large purchase, if they've had a large investment, if they their cash flow's down, that impacts the insurance, it impacts the program, it impacts the portfolio. So how can we utilize that data again to create prompts and create conversations and encourage us to be able to speak to each other to say, has something changed? Is something about to change? Have you considered this? Have you looked at this? So it goes into that proactive risk management and control rather than the reactive and waiting 12 months later and they go, oh, guess what? Yeah. We have now been bought by someone else and it means something totally different. So banking is another great example of that. Again, working with banks to create trust and education and making sure that risk protection sits alongside everyday banking and what it means. Finance, in terms of access to finance, again, some of these companies will want to ensure that the right risk protection in play, the right policies, the right portfolios. So we do health checks. We help support them getting access to cash and to funds to help their businesses thrive and grow by ensuring that their asset, their business and ability is not going to be hindered by the insurance portfolio or the risk protection in play.
Fantastic. Thank you. So for anyone who's watching this, who's sort of running a small business or perhaps thinking of setting up a small business, what's one really important piece of advice from the research and the report you've done, or just more widely, what one piece of advice would you give to a small business owner or founder about insurance, about what they really need to know and think about?
I think that you're not alone. So I bring it back to the kind of human element of building a business is hard enough. Providing for your family is really difficult. Life is hard. Insurance should be a support act, not a burden. It's always going to be an unsexy purchase because of its cost or what it does, and you don't see the value of it until something happens. But coming back to the community, the industry that they're in, the people around them, everyone's facing the same challenges, or they have faced the same challenges. So I would encourage these SMEs, these startups, these new entrepreneurs to speak out, to access resources, to talk to their insurance provider, to talk to businesses like them, to be part of networking groups and communities, to face some of that loneliness together. Even though circumstantially things might be different, there's a lot of scenarios that people are going through the same thing at the same time. And I think if they have that resource group round about them and they have that kind of human element and human touch point to say that they're not alone and these challenges they face aren't just to them, I think that goes a long way and allows them to survive and thrive. From a product perspective, ensuring you have the right broker who's not just doing the same thing year on, year out is really important. It has to go beyond the product. It has to be about the relationship. It has to be about the trust. It's about us making sure that we can access the right products, the right capacity, the right support for them, even on insurance or non-insurance. So we spoke about risk management, we spoke about health and safety. But some small businesses just need things like marketing support and HR services and tax helplines and legal helplines. And your insurance broker should be providing these services for you as well, and not as an additional cost, but actually as a benefit of being a customer of the businesses. The most important thing is your community, the people around you, knowing that you aren't on your own, knowing that as your insurance provider, we can be more than that. It's a relationship-driven piece, and being open and vulnerable. And by doing that, there are people around about you wanting to help and support you and ensure that you thrive. And that's what makes the UK and our economy so exciting and opportunistic.
Thank you, Chris. That's great advice. I could sit here and talk to you about insurance all day, but you've got a business to run and customers to help. So thank you so much for joining me. Where can people find out more about Superscript, more about you, more about the report and everything else that Superscript's up to?
I would love for as many people as possible to engage with our 130 plus staff. We're based in London, but we actually have presence throughout the UK. Our website at www.gosuperscript.com. But I'll also share details separately with you that people can lean into. In terms of me personally, via LinkedIn, my direct contact details are on the website. I'd love to talk. I'd love to share stories. I'd love to be vulnerable with other CEOs or other teams who are building businesses and growing, and maybe we can overcome some of the problems together.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Chris. That's all we've got time for this week. So make sure you all follow 11FS on your favorite social media platforms to stay updated with everything that we're doing. If you've enjoyed this show, please do subscribe to the 11FS YouTube channel, where you can also catch up on previous episodes. Thank you again, Chris, and have a great weekend.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.